Always so grateful to have you with us. I'm Christy Paul.
I'm Victor Blackwell. Good morning.
So new questions for the White House over what Jared Kushner told Congress.
A source tells CNN the president's son-in-law and senior advisor told congressional investigators he did not communicate with WikiLeaks, and he also said he did not recall anyone in the Trump campaign who had. But a new report says that he forwarded an email to senior campaign officials from Donald Trump Jr., and in that email, according to The Atlantic, Trump Jr. said he had made contact with WikiLeaks.
In the Alabama Senate race, an eighth woman has come forward with accusations against Roy Moore. She says Moore grabbed her inappropriately back in 1991. Our panel with us now, CNN political commentator Jack Kingston and Tara Setmeyer, former communications director for Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. Thank you both for being with us. We appreciate it. I want to ask you, Jack, first and foremost, now with this eighth woman who has come forward with allegations against Roy Moore, where does he stand? What does the Republican Party do with this?
I think that they all have dug in. I've talked to a lot of people in Alabama, and it seems like they're getting in their camps and they're deciding if this issue is still credible or not. Some of them have already come to the conclusion that it isn't. But I also think we're seeing some tribalism in that people say, well, some of these women are probably telling the truth, but that was a long time ago. But am I willing to vote for somebody who's pro-abortion, pro-gun control, who's going to vote against the Supreme Court nominees of President Trump? And so I think that you are seeing that kind of tribalism. And then I think there's also people who say, you know, I'm weighing the evidence, but I'm going to accept some of it, and then I'm going to say maybe I can forgive him because it was a long, long time ago. I would say this, that his wife yesterday did come off very credibly, but so are these women. And so I think it's going to go down to the wire. I heard somebody say earlier on this network that the polling is fluid, and I believe that is the case. I believe there are a lot of people who aren't saying what they're going to do if they already know, and then there's others who just, we're going to let it play out and see what happens.
Tara, that is one of the questions. When we look at a recent poll, he is down in the polls, and his opponent is up. But Jack brings up a good point. You see there, Doug Jones at 50%, Roy Moore at 42%, according to this poll. However, polls have not been our friend recently. So the question is, do you agree that perhaps people are going to vote for him regardless of what's happening? They're just not willing to say it publicly.
Well, I think the Access Hollywood tape last year is a clear example of how, when you're this far away from an election, anything can happen. Obviously, there's been a significant shift in momentum toward the Democrat, Doug Jones, since these allegations came out, but we're still several weeks away from the actual election. So these polls are snapshots in time. And, you know, I think that the Roy Moore campaign is trying to use the Donald Trump strategy here of just riding it out. We may see it shift back because, you know, we see a lot of these man on the street interviews with folks that are saying that exactly what Jack Kingston said, which I find to be troubling, because I think that in the long term, if Republicans elect Roy Moore to the Senate, they are going to be saddled with this Roy Moore issue all the way through not only the midterms, but into 2020. Politically, in the long run, this is going to be really damaging to the Republican Party. The best interest of Republicanism, if folks really wanted, if that was what was at stake here, would be for Roy Moore to step aside and to give an opportunity for another Republican that doesn't have this baggage, that's not accused of being a child predator, be on the ballot. Or there's so many other ways, and I think it's a selfish decision by the part of Roy Moore to continue to stay in this race, knowing the level of these allegations, and credible allegations. Let's not act as though this is a one-off or two. We're talking 9 women and almost 50 other people that have been able to corroborate a lot of their stories.
I think it's 8 women, just to be clear, unless I'm missing something.
I thought there was a new accuser.
Yes, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
And Tara's right.
But is there the potential for this to affect policy if he's elected? Where do Republicans go with this?
Well, I think Tara's right. Number one, this is a double gift to the opposition because, number one, there's a scandal right now happening. Number two, there's a huge dilemma after he's elected in terms of, well, do you seat him? Do you embrace him? Do you put him on committees? And then every single senator who's up for re-election is going to have to answer to whatever decisions are made. So I think it doesn't go away with the election unless there's some huge intervening event that wipes it off the map. But I don't think it goes away. I think it's going to affect policy probably less than it does politics. I think if it affects politics enough, then the policy will ultimately suffer because the president won't be able to pass his agenda. And right now, as you know, with Murkowski and Collins and McCain, it's already difficult trying to get to 51 votes in the Senate.
The other big story today is Jared Kushner, who, some are saying he lied under oath. Well, he wasn't actually under oath, but he lied in his testimony regarding WikiLeaks and if he ever knew of anybody in the Trump camp who had discussed WikiLeaks. How much trouble do you think he is in here, Tara?
Listen, Jared Kushner, first of all, has no business having a job in the White House. He has no business having a security clearance, even if it's a temporary one. Both Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump were not qualified to have the positions they have. It's just pure nepotism. And not only that, Jared Kushner's own family history of very unethical business practices has also followed him into the Oval Office, followed him into the inner circle of the president. And the taxpayers are the ones that have to suffer at this. I mean, even though he's not taking a salary, but still he's representing the American people. This is a problem. Jared Kushner, who is supposed to be some kind of wonderkind that was going to solve Middle East peace, and he has this large portfolio in the White House. He was going to solve all these big problems. He couldn't figure out even how to fill out his SF-86 security clearance form. He had to revise it multiple times. He forgot over 100 meetings with other foreign agents. It strains credulity that this guy just made simple clerical errors. In the same thing with the email situation. Oh, he just forgot? We're supposed to believe this? Now, you have to remember that the Senate committee, this is a bipartisan effort. It's both Feinstein and Chuck Grassley who have sent a very pointed letter explaining that they're not thrilled about the fact that Kushner omitted these emails. This is a problem, and it seems to be a pattern of behavior with Jared Kushner all the way still, and here we are almost a year into this administration, and it just shows a pattern of dishonesty.
Jack, I only have a couple of seconds. I only have a couple seconds left. I'd like you to respond to that. And do you think Jared Kushner is solid in his position?
I don't think he's solid, but I don't think he's in trouble either. This was a forwarded email. It wasn't one that originated with him or that was sent directly to him in which he responded. He received, like all of us do during a campaign, hundreds of emails a day. Many of them you don't read, you just forward on.
But Attorney O'Mara made a very good point that Kushner was most likely very well versed going into this by his lawyers. So to use that, I forgot, may not hold water.
And I think that's going to have to be litigated. It was 6 hours of testimony. He answered, all the questions. I think the question on this one was, did you have direct contact with WikiLeaks? And the email does not show that he did. It does show that he should have known that somebody in the campaign was. But I'll say this, been in Washington for 25 years. I know Tara has. People miss things on disclosure all the time. I was reading this morning
not at this level, Jack.
I was reading this morning a September 29, 2012 article in Newsmax reported by Bloomberg that of the Obama agencies, in terms of disclosure, 19 out of 20 of them did not disclose proper travel reports. And the context of the article was that this is a very transparent administration, and yet they missed it as well. 19 out of 20 agencies.
You forget 100 contacts with foreigners. You forget the fact that you own a company named Cadre that you make millions of dollars on your financial
Tara,
forms. Come on,
it's a conversation that will continue. Obviously, yes. There's much yet to be answered, no doubt about it. Jack Kingston, Tara Setmeyer. I'm sorry we've run out of time, but thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Christy.
Sure.
Thank you.
Still to come.